All right, another edition of Anabolic Academy with John Livia on Serious and Silliness Bodybuilding on YouTube and also on Spotify and iTunes and Google Podcasts. And any way you can find me. So I got a few questions. I got actually some pretty good questions. The first question that I'm actually going to answer is actually a girl at the gym asked me a question today. And I thought it was it's a very general question, a very beginner question, but I'm going to actually answer it here. I talked to her in the gym, obviously, but I was driving home and I was like, that's actually a pretty good question. So, she has trouble with her midsection. She's got a little body fat on her belly and she asked me how to get rid of it. And, I had to actually tell her that, there's no such thing as spot reducing. You can't spot reduce. When you lose body fat, you lose all over your body. And I said, so the only thing you really have to do is you got to diet and cardio. But since she was like a beginner, I actually told her, just clean up your diet. You don't have to starve yourself. Just make smart food choices. We all know what smart food choices are for the most part. If you have to do a little bit of research, you could do a little bit of research, but your meals, you want to have them to be clean, right? Maybe, in the morning, eggs, oatmeal, right? A protein shake or oatmeal because you're on the go like me. Chicken, fish, brown rice. I would stay away from white rice or white potatoes, do brown rice, oatmeal, sweet potatoes, things like that. Make sure you have your greens, your fats, if you could do, if you have greens, you pour some macadamia nut oil on it. I know Dave Palumbo sells one that's really good, Species Nutrition, or you could do nuts or different types of nuts or almond butter or cashew butter. And, you just clean it up, and you'd be surprised for a beginner who has some body fat. You'd be surprised how fast it comes off. And when you do cardio, make sure you do it one of two times. You do it in the morning on an empty stomach as soon as you get up, or you do it right after an intense workout because you don't want to be working on the calories that you've taken in all day. So you want to dip right into the fat deposit. So if you do an intense, weight training workout, odds are you're going to burn off the calories that you've taken in during the day. And then when you continue to do the cardio after, you'll dip right into the fat deposit. And obviously in the morning is the same thing. You're waking up, you don't have any food in you, you're just doing cardio, you're dipping right into the fat deposit. You're not burning any calories from the day before, the night before, or anything like that. So that was a question. And her name is Brittany, and she's actually really, really nice. So I wanted to ask that question. So let's get to some questions. Let's see. Justin Walker 160 on Instagram. What do you think of Julia Witzel as an athlete, and where do you see her placing at the Miss O this year? So I honestly did not know who she was. I had to look her up, and I realized that she came in second at New York. She actually looked really good, but she ran into Natalie. Natalie, I forget her last name. I'm going to butcher it if I try. She looked good. I think she could probably break the top 10 or the top 12. I don't think she's going to break the top 6, but she looks like a good bodybuilder. If you look at her Instagram, she's made a lot of progress. When you see like from photos of years ago when she used to be really thin, and now she has a tremendous bodybuilding physique for a woman. Absolutely. I mean, she looked phenomenal. But I think, I don't know how old she is. I didn't look it up, but she looks like she can be tough competition in the future. I think she might be able to break the top 10 in this Olympia. All right, next question from Fran is the man. If men's physique and classic physique was around when you competed, would you have done it? Well, men's physique was around. I would never have done men's physique. Classic physique wasn't around when I competed. I definitely would have done classic physique. My body would be more suited for classic physique. My biggest problem was my size. I was never a huge bodybuilder, and I knew that if I went to the nationals or any national level show and going into the open, I would get my ass handed to me because I just didn't have the size. I mean, when you see these guys, I've told the story 1,000 times. After my last show in 2014, I did the Brooklyn Grand Prix. And I won the Masters, and I didn't do so good in the open, but I won the Masters overall. So I could have done the Masters. What's the one in Teaneck, New Jersey? I forget, but national level show, whatever. I could have done the Masters, Nationals, whatever. So I went to the national level show in Teaneck. I forget the name of it. And they just had it, right? Yeah, didn't they just have it? couple of weeks ago. Yeah, they do. They have it like in the first week of July or the last week of June every year. And Team Universe. Sorry, it's Team Universe. And I remember going and just seeing what a winner of a national level bodybuilder would look like. So I went, and I don't remember what year it was. I'm assuming it's 2013, 2014. I don't remember. And that was the year John Meadows won and got his pro card. And I remember going home and telling my wife that I'm never going to look like that. Like, there's nothing I could do to look like John Meadows. He was phenomenal. You know, that's what a pro looked like. So I remember saying to myself, I'm wasting my time here. You know, you got to come into some realization sooner or later, right? You got to realize that, you know, you're in your 30s. It's costly. It's time consuming, putting everyone at bay because of this hobby and or dream that you're hoping for. But you have to be real about it, right? And I was real about it. I was not 250 pounds, 260 pounds on my off season. I was not, you know, 220 on stage. That wasn't me. I mean, the last show I did, I think I weighed in at 181. I was a light heavyweight. I'm pretty sure I was 181. You know, when I'm 5'8", that's not big. I mean, I was conditioned and I had nice flow, but it's not big. But yes, if Classic Physique was around when I did it, then yeah, I would have done Classic Physique. Definitely. I probably would have done a lot better on a national level in Classic Physique. But I see this a lot. I see a lot of like guys that are in their 30s or, you know, and they're putting everything at bay, and or even girls, you know, and they're competing, and it's just kind of on a paradoxical treadmill, you know, they're going nowhere fast. It's just, and sooner or later you got to say to yourself, because let's say, I mean, listen, it's a great hobby. If you, I mean, do what you want, but if it's costing a lot of money, which it does, it costs a lot of money, and you're putting your girlfriend at bay or your wife at bay or your kids or your family, you can't eat what everybody else eats. You're not enjoying yourself. Maybe you're making a living on the side, or you can't concentrate at work. I mean, it's just not worth it. You know, it's just not worth it to me. I think sometimes you got to be real, you know, and that's what happened to me. I was competing in NPC shows. I was winning masters. The best I did in open was second in NPC shows. So technically I was qualified to do a national open, because you 1 and 2, I believe back then, I don't know if it still is, you can do the you know, a nationals or whatever, nationals or the USAs or whatever, or Team Universe or whatever. And I knew I would have get my ass kicked, you know, going on stage at 180. I would have got my ass kicked if I was 200, if I was 210, because now I'm in the heavyweights. So I'm at the light end of the heavyweights, you know, and these guys are big and they're shredded and they're hard and I just knew it. So I said, okay, you know what? We're done. And I just continued following the sport and following bodybuilding, because it was always been a love of mine. And then I got to the point around 2020, I started the podcast, and then I had January of 2023, I made an exclusive bodybuilding podcast, and it fills this void of me bodybuilding. I love talking about it and being on the mic, and I'm definitely better on the mic than I am on stage. That's for sure. Anyway, what is the next question? The next question is, Fran is the man again. Okay. What's your favorite bodybuilding and non-bodybuilding podcast you listen to besides your own? And well, obviously my favorite bodybuilding is mine, but I'm not listening to my podcast. Excuse me. RX Muscle, Dave Palumbo. I've always been a big fan of Dave's. The whole idea of Anabolic Academy came from his Ask Dave. I said, if I'm going to do a bodybuilding show, I'm going to do something similar to Ask Dave. I've always admired him. He's been crazy intelligent. We were both from New York. So when he was, a big name in the 90s, everybody knew who Dave Palumbo was. He would guest pose at all the shows. He was a monster, and he was intelligent. He was friendly, and he's helped me. He came on my show. I have an interview with him. You could scroll down. It's all the way at the bottom. It's on this channel. I mean, when I left MD and I had that fallout, he got me on his show, and we talked about what happened with MD. And he's always been a pretty good supporter, So RX Muscle. And other than RX Muscle Desktop, Xavier is a good guy. I've had him on my old channel. But Xavier is a good guy. He basically does some good, really good content. He's a little boring. I mean, I'm not going to lie. He's fucking boring, right? He's just tells you what it is, but whatever. I mean, that's my attitude is I'm not trying not to be boring. I try to be stupid and funny and informative at the same time. But seriously, Xavier on Desktop is actually a really good show. If you just want, bodybuilding news. And of course, Nick Strength and Power. But first, RX Muscle is first. Non-bodybuilding, Valuetainment. Valuetainment is my favorite. Patrick Bet-David, that guy is just a business genius. Now Valuetainment is one of the biggest podcasts in the world, one of the biggest YouTube channels in the world, and it's basically full of information. It does a lot of politics, a lot of news. He started off interviewing, former mafia guys a few years ago when that was really hot. And now he has established himself where he has his own crew, and they talk politics, they talk finance, they talk what's happening in the country, and it's basically non-biased. Let me rephrase that. They tell it like it is, right? So the crazy stuff that's going on, and with the trans stuff and the LGBT and the woke stuff, they tell it like it is. And they talk about all that, and he has great guests on. I know he had Rudy Giuliani on, and then he actually has other shows on Valuetainment. So his show is PTD, right? Patrick Bet-David, PBD. Sorry, Patrick Bet-David. And then he has people that work for him to have their own shows on there. And excuse me. And what's even better about him is he came from Iran with his family when he was a kid. So he was, working class. He had joined the military after high school. And then after the military, I believe he started some kind of insurance company and became very successful in insurance. And then he started Patrick Bet-David Valuetainment, and the guy is worth a ton of money. And somebody asked me one time, who are the two people that I would love to interview if I could interview anybody? And obviously on my Outcast channel, the other channel I have, it would be him, Patrick Bet-David, and Mike Tyson. Those two. If I can get those two on, then I could shut it down. There's nothing for me after that. On here, Phil Heath. If I can get Phil Heath on here, that I've gotten Jay Cutler, I've had Linda Murray, I've had other greats. If I can get Phil Heath to come on here for an interview, that would be blown away. It was one of my favorites. Anyway, let's see. So that's it. Valuetainment. Great. If you don't watch it, you really should. It's a fantastic show. All right. Next question. The Rican Rhino. Oh, he was on one show with me. Actually, he did an Anabolic Academy. Why are pros so entitled now? They don't want to be at booths. So like Jay and Phil and Ronnie used to be for sponsors. You know what? You happen to be right. I don't know about the booth so much, but the list for the Vancouver came out today. The Vancouver Pro. And I was looking at the list and I said, how is this possible? This is the Open in Vancouver Pro. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 competitors in the Vancouver Pro and the Open. I don't know. I don't understand what these guys are trying to do. There's no more point system. Forget it. And then on here, there is Hassan Mustafa. So you got to pick him to win because there's nobody else. I mean, Nathan Spear. I mean, he's a good bodybuilder, but, he's a friend and he's used to be on my show, but he's not going to be able to beat Hassan Mustafa. And Stanimal. Stanimal came in third behind Hassan in Orlando. And the other three I never heard of. So, I mean, there's probably 1, 2, and 3. I don't understand what these guys are doing. Now, getting back to, I don't know why they're not competing. I have no idea. Getting back to the other question. I mean, anytime I've gone to a show, okay, all right. Let me be honest. I went to Olympia. There's a lot of long lines if you want to meet Jay Cutler or so on and so forth, right? Well, it's mostly YouTube guys and Instagram guys and blah, 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 which annoys the hell out of me because I'm there to meet bodybuilders that have accomplished something, but whatever. I I did go to the New York Pro, and there was this one guy that I really wanted to meet, and that was Fuad Abiad. And I'm not sure if it just maybe he was busy, maybe he had a bad day. I don't know. I don't want to talk ill about the man, but it put a bad taste in my mouth because I tried meeting him in the morning, and I tried meeting him. I tried meeting him prejudging, and I tried meeting him in the evening at finals. And it wasn't like there was a long line. It was maybe 4 or 5 people, and I wasn't able to. And I was like standing there for like 20 minutes, a half hour. After a while of standing there, you feel stupid. You feel like a creep. You feel dumb. It's, and he was at both times, and the on the prejudging and the night show, he was continued to talk to one person when there were people waiting to meet him. Now I don't know if that's the way he is. I have no idea. It did put a bad taste in my mouth, but I'm trying to be, have an open mind. I have no idea. I know that sometimes these guys are busy. He's a big star in the industry, and he has a big podcast and a huge supplement line. So maybe he was busy. Maybe he had a bad day. Maybe he wasn't paying attention. I don't know, right? But here's my answer, and I'm not going to hold back as to why. My opinion is that this is the bodybuilders that are now in their prime. This is the millennial and Gen Z generation, all grown up. And they're a very entitled generation. This is the everybody gets a trophy. Everybody gets a pat on the back. You never did anything wrong. Your father never disciplined you, single mother kind of deal. And this is the outcome. And the outcome is they're very entitled, and they probably don't realize that without the fans, they wouldn't be where they are. Now, that being said, I've had several guys on my channel that are fantastic, and they're in that age range. Ryan Foster, had Beef Stew. I've had who else in that age range? I mean, the list goes on and on. I've had, who else have I had? I had a bunch of guys. I don't remember exactly. So there are guys that understand, but there are people that are entitled. And listen, they come from an entitled generation. Gen X was probably the last generation that was not entitled. After that, I mean, they literally called us the Latchkey Generation, because during Gen X, that's when divorces started going up, and mothers had to work. Fathers weren't home because they were divorced. And so the kids would have a key around their neck, and they'd go home by themselves after work, after school, because their moms were working, and they were home alone. They'd have to do their homework or whatever, and then after that, during that, the millennial generation, and then the Gen Z, and then this generation coming up is probably going to be even worse, because you have a lot of propaganda that's being shoved into these kids' heads. So I don't see it getting any better anytime soon. But I do see that there are some young men and young women that do understand that without the fans, they wouldn't be there. And I'll give props where props are due. I mean, Nathan Spear at the New York Pro, after he was done, I'm sorry. And he was disappointed he didn't do as well as he wanted to. But he was there talking to people, shaking hands, taking pictures, signing autographs, blah, blah, blah. And he told me, he goes, I was hanging out with him bullshit. And he's like, listen, I got to get back to the people. I said, no problem, man. Do what you got to do. And so, I kind of respected him for that. But, I could see how the large majority of these guys, and social media doesn't help. You know what I mean? If you have, 500,000 followers, and you have, 5,000 likes and comments on every post you put, and DMs, well, that can get to your head, right? It's like putting gasoline on the fire. You have an entitled generation, put social media on top of it. That's like putting gasoline on the fire, and, their attitude becomes, you want me, so you have to wait for me. I'm the one that is in demand here, so that is probably my best answer for that. I think I have one last question, and then that's it. So this question is from my mother. She says, how did I get to be the most handsome boy in New Jersey? Thanks, Mom. Remember, like and subscribe. My mother even watches. Jesus Christ. Thank you very much for tuning in and watching my bodybuilding channel, Serious and Silliness Bodybuilding. If you happen to like true crime, mafia members, outlaw bikers, adult entertainers, please check out my Serious and Silliness Outcast channel right here. The link will be right here. If you like comedy and news and OnlyFans girls, please check out my Serious and Silliness Guy Talk channel right here. The link will be right here. But thank you very much for tuning in. Check out all 3 channels. They're all fun, and I'm on there. So you'll get more of me, and I'm fucking great.